the fact is that there is massive news coming in from Israel, because Israel has now made a sensational claim. Ballistic missiles fired from Iran. Alarm bells ring louder in Israel. Israelis have taken shelter in bunkers, and the Middle East is in the middle of a war even as we speak. So those are the pictures coming in at this point of time. A huge allegation being made by Israel that there have been rockets that have been fired towards them. All right, you can hear the sirens as well, and that is of course part of the entire Iron Dome defense as far as Israel is concerned. And in fact, advance warning being given to citizens who've entered bunkers even as we speak. So that's the latest coming in. We're going to connect with my colleagues Rishabh and Srinjoy for more updates on this. Rishabh, this is a massive moment, because after October 7th, after the beginning of the hostilities, this war has clearly entered into a different phase, if these reports are believed to be correct, of Israel being attacked by Iran.
This is news coming in. The Israeli Defense Forces have now confirmed that the civilians in Israel are in bomb shelter, given that there are rockets being fired from Iran to Israel. And the way this comes just hours after the White House in Washington released a statement that there is ballistic missile attack imminent from Iran to Israel, and the US will not leave Iran. There will be consequences if that happens. Now, Israeli Defense Forces confirming that there is an attack from Iran on Israel.
All right, and Srinjoy also with us for more on this. In fact, Srinjoy, the U.S. has thrown its weight behind Israel. U.S. President and Vice President are in a huddle, and Joe Biden is saying that U.S. is prepared to help Israel. All this happening at a time when aircraft carriers have been moved closer to Israel by the United States.
Yes, this is one of history's oh my God moments, because these last 24 hours have been really crucial. First, despite the requests of President Biden, Israel has moved its land forces into South Lebanon to fight the Hezbollah. Now that's bad enough. Now you have these Iranian missiles streaking across to attempt to hit Israel. Now this is something that Israel will reply to, and the Americans will reply to. Now talk of the war getting bigger and bigger. Let's not forget that exactly a year ago, almost, it started with a Hamas attack on Israel. Then we moved on to the Hezbollah, we moved on to the Houthis, and you have now Iran in the picture, Iran attacking Israel, America saying we will not spare Iran if they attack Israel. So the war has got bigger and bigger. We want to know where it will come to an end, how things will go about, how things will work out now, because there seems to be no sign of any peace. This is war without end.
Absolutely.
And this is the first day of a much wider, bigger war involving many more people.
Absolutely.
This is a serious crisis.
Well, absolutely. And in fact, Srinjoy, over the past year, there's been a lot of speculation about whether there would be a wider conflict. And that's exactly what we're seeing play out. One is, of course, on the front of Lebanon. Secondly, on the front of Iran. And now, of course, we also know that the attacks that have taken place as far as the Houthis in Yemen is concerned. It's not just about Gaza. It has literally spread in all directions away from Israel. But Israel itself being attacked at this point of time, it is probably a long, protracted war. It's already been a war that has lasted a year, and perhaps something that's going to last much longer, judging by the events that are unfolding before us.
Yeah, everything you hoped would not happen has happened in these last 24, 36 hours. You had hoped that Israel would not begin a land offensive in south of Lebanon. It began. You hoped that Iran would not involve itself directly and fire missiles at Israel. It has just happened. You hope that America would not take action because all these things would not have happened. But now that the American carriers are in place, you can expect targets in Israel, in Iran. You can expect the aircraft carriers readying cruise missiles aimed at Iranian targets. That's a possibility. We are not saying that's going to be the next step, but that's surely something that is an option for the Americans.
Well, absolutely. In fact, there's some more breaking news coming in amidst the Iran offensive in Israel. In fact, the terror attack taking place in Israel's Jaffa. 4 killed, 7 hurt in the terror attack is the information coming in from Israeli police. They have also said that the terrorists have been killed. That's the latest information coming in. Let me quickly get in Rishabh on this. Rishabh, Israeli cops giving information of terrorists being killed, but there has been a terror strike in which we've seen 4 killed and 7 hurt as per Israeli police.
Well, definitely, Madhav, a terror strike as per Israeli police is underway in Jaffa. It was underway in Jaffa. As of now, the police say that the terrorist has been killed, and the police say the Israelis stay strong and stay safe. So definitely, Israel, while it's fighting a war on its various frontiers, be it the blue line on the northern side or on the Gaza side, or for that matter, thousands of kilometers away in Iran, or for that matter in Yemen, the terror strikes in Jaffa. And Jaffa, remember, is the old city, religious city of Israel, half an hour away from Tel Aviv. So it is closer to their capital as well. Old Jaffa is the Mediterranean side of the Tel Aviv and the oldest city in Israel, as we are given to understand, apart from Jerusalem.
Okay. Rishabh and Srinjo, I'm going to request you all to stay on with us. In fact, we have a guest joining us. Burzin Wagmar is from the Center of Iranian Studies at SOAS, University of London. Burzin Wagmar, welcome to Times Now. Thanks so much for joining us. This is something that many have been speculating about for the past 48 hours. I was just discussing that with my colleague. There were those who very strongly believe that Iran would not enter into such a direct conflict with Israel. But unfortunately, that's exactly what has happened. And with these rockets being fired into Israel, what really are we looking at from here on? Because this would mean, more fighting. The United States already moving its aircraft carriers into the region. Many fronts being opened, not just with Gaza, but also with Yemen, with Lebanon. What really are we looking at here? Burzin Wagmar.
With Hassan Nasrallah being decimated on Friday evening, Iran lost its most important proxy in the Arabian Peninsula, who had been blessed and appointed by Khamenei in 1992. Since then, his reign of mayhem and murder has seen Lebanon go from crisis to crisis. The point is this: with his passing, Iran feels completely beleaguered and wanted to take some action. You think initially that Iran would not do so because it would not wish to be drawn into a direct fray with Netanyahu. But at the same time, you would have thought prior to Friday past, Netanyahu would not launch a direct attack on the Iranian mainland. But all these red lines have been crossed. And obviously, Khamenei has gone into hiding, but the point is that Iran has decided to strike not so much Israel, which it has done as we are on air, but for the last few months also targeting Jews everywhere with a host of nexus operations with criminal elements in Sweden, Belgium, the Japanese mafia, from whom they wanted to obtain weapons-grade plutonium in order to take out hitmen and squads against Israel and Jewish targets. Please remember that Hassan Nasrallah, 24 hours after the 7th October massacre of Israeli citizens, entered the fray himself and decided to attack Israel. Right. Concomitantly, in the last few months, 60,000 Israelis from northern Israel have had to be evacuated and their lives turned upside down thanks to Hezbollah attacks. So it was only a question of time before Israel would take them on with this planned operation, the ground offensive, which was cleared by the cabinet during the late evening hours only yesterday, Monday evening in Jerusalem.
Right. And in fact, let me bring in Adam Scott Bellos, who's the CEO of the Israel Innovation Fund, also with us. Adam Scott Bellos, many were predicting that, with a repeated wave of attacks, first it was, pagers, then it was walkie-talkies, then, of course, the strike on Nasrallah, and, of course, the rockets that were fired into Lebanon. Many were predicting that this could be a possibility if Iran chooses to retaliate. That's what's happened. But the larger question now is, what kind of a conflict are we looking at? Because Israel appears to have opened up multiple fronts.
Well, I would have to say that multiple fronts have been open since the beginning of the war. So I think that framing the last few weeks as just like a major paradigm shift in the war might be correct in terms of us engaging on a heavier level. But to say that we are now only beginning a multi-front war would be incorrect. We've obviously been engaged with the Houthis, with Hezbollah, and with Iran directly since October 7th. I think one of the biggest mistakes that everybody has made when framing this war has been that it's not a multi-front war and that it's either a war with Hamas or a war with Hezbollah, when this is really the war with Iran. This is the first and hopefully the last Israel-Iran war. Clearly, the attack in May was unsuccessful by Iran. And then, you know, we also saw the Israelis preemptively attack Hezbollah a few weeks ago when they were given intelligence that a massive rocket barrage on central Israel was going to take place. A lot of people foresaw a ground invasion coming like we're seeing now in northern Lebanon. I actually did not think that we would go as far as that. But what has become apparent is that the plans to create another October 7th were still moving into effect even after the assassination of the top tier leadership of all of Hezbollah and the pager attack. So clearly, while Hezbollah has been crippled, they still have operations available to them. And it seems as though everything has been moving forward in a defensive measure on Israel's part. I hope that answers your question.
Right, and also the timing of this particular attack that has taken place. Let me bring in Colonel Dr. Rafael George Bushnik-Chen, who's a senior researcher at the Begin Sarat Institute for Strategic Studies at the Bar-Ilan University. Dr. Rafael George, your analysis of what really is transpiring, the timing of all of this, of course, there are multiple factors. It is a time when the United States is engaged with its own democratic process of the election. So pressure from the United States, even though there have been statements coming in from the US president, clearly Israel, has not heeded to that. Attacks have taken place, and now the United States still standing firm with Israel. How are we to analyze, what can possibly transpire from here on?
Well, first of all, I would say the meaning of this missile attack from Iran means practically declaration of war. So apparently Israel and Iran are in a state of war. Of course, the United States wasn't so happy to see this kind of development. However, once this attack occurred, no doubt the United States will stick to support Israel if necessary for a retaliation attack or any other punishment to be sent towards Iran. Actually, it is believed that almost 400 ballistic missiles were launched towards Israel, and I think it's the largest SSM's attack ever in the world. So the fact that the damage in Israel is still minimal means that Iran failed in punishing Israel for what they pretend to claim, I would say, revenging the assassination of Nasrallah and hitting of some senior generals belonging to the Quds force, which is a part of the IRGC,
right?
The Revolutionary Guards of
Colonel,
Iran.
Sorry for interrupting you there, Colonel Dr. Rafael George Bushnik-Chen. But the question that, the point that you just made about this being perhaps the largest such missile attack is, in a sense, what it probably is trying to do is overwhelm the Iron Dome, as we've seen in the past attacks also and attempts that have been made from different fronts, perhaps. Is that the idea of this kind of a coordinated missile strike?
Well, as for the attack of tonight, it comes just from Iran, and we didn't see other proxies joining the Iranian main attack. There was an attack from Lebanon, I would say earlier this evening, but it was just one rocket sent towards the center of Israel. A few days ago, we faced some missiles attack from Yemen, but as you know, Israel retaliated by hitting the area of Hodeidah port and I would say causing a great damage to the facilities over there. So it appears that the Houthis will hesitate resuming.
All right, and international media is reporting, Press TV of Iran as well as others are saying that it's the Iranian Revolutionary Guard which has put out a statement that they have started hitting important military targets with dozens of missiles in occupied territories. So this is something that is officially coming in from Press TV of Iran. It's being widely reported in other international media as well, and therefore onus being taken by the Iran Revolutionary Guard. Let me quickly bring in fact, joining us on the show also is Captain Alok Bansal. Captain Alok Bansal, very interesting to see that, there are multiple reports coming in at this point of time now, formally Iranian Revolutionary Guard taking onus. It's pretty much a declaration of war, as other panelists have been telling us. What are we to expect from India's perspective, sir?
See, from India's perspective, it's a very, very problematic thing and a very sad day, because escalation of conflict from India's point of view was never good, because it was heading towards this sort of a scenario when there would be an open confrontation, and we are seeing this. I only hope that this attack also peters off like the one earlier from Iran on Israel. But if it actually manages to hit some targets in Israel and there is retaliation, then you could see an all-out war. An all-out war is certainly not in India's interest, because this will flare up the entire Middle East, because create a problem. It's not even in the interest of any country, because I think economy will take a heavy beating. You will see the global economy going into downturn, and there is no doubt that Israel in the recent past has shown its capabilities the way it has targeted Hezbollah and Houthis. Having done that, they have, I think, to a very great extent reduced the efficacy of these organizations, and that's one of the reasons why you are not finding Iran's proxies joining the war, as one of the panelists said. But having said that, we need to understand that Iran is neither Houthi nor Hezbollah, and an all-out conflict with Iran will take time, will create problems, of course, for Iran as well. There may be a window of opportunity that maybe it could eliminate the repressive regime that Iran has been suffering from. If it could bring about a change of regime in Iran, then it may be a very good thing. But from India's point of view, Iran has always been important, as that's our own sole access to Central Asia and Trans-Caucasus region.
Very, very important possibility that you're discussing there, Captain Bansal. I'm going to just come to you in a minute, because we have another update coming in. The Iran side has upped the airstrike offensive. Israel says that it's 10 million people which are on the target. That's the latest update coming in. But let me bring in Burzin Wagmar, who in fact is from the Center of Iranian Studies at SOAS, University of London, on the point that was being made by you, Captain Bansal. Is there a possibility, and is it realistically a possibility, Mr. Wagmar, of a regime change actually happening in Iran? Is that the possible intention here? And will Iran be able to sustain a long war if allies of Israel, such as the United States, stand firmly behind it?
No, Iran will not be able to sustain it. Its technology is inferior compared to Israel. Israel's F-35 stealth jets can reach Iran and bombard installations. The Iranians have nothing of the sort in paraphernalia to combat them. You see these spectacular air shows which are occurring on air as we speak, as well as in April when the consulate in Damascus was raised. That time too, please remember that Jordan and Saudi Arabia intercepted Iranian missiles. So there's no question of a grand Muslim coalition as such, because not only is the Islamic regime 45 years on thoroughly discredited at home, which it is with its citizenry across the Iranian national spectrum, but also in Iran's near abroad, it has no friends, because all the entire Arabian Peninsula, not just the GCC states, but also across the Levant, say for Lebanon's Hezbollah proxy, are dead set against Iran as a regional instability factor for all of them. And they'd be more than happy to see the Iranian regime go. But that is for Iranians to undertake as and when it occurs. But insofar as Israel is concerned, its paramount message to Iran is this: if you come after Jewish lives, there are repercussions. And bloodletting of Jews, whether in Israel or elsewhere through your proxies, through criminal gangs who have been operating in Sweden and Belgium, as Belgium and Sweden intelligence have caught up in the last few months, attacking Israeli embassies in Stockholm and elsewhere, including the Israeli embassy which was attacked by in New Delhi in 2012, and the attack, Deepak, which took place on 26 December 2023, which, according to Delhi police now, was conducted by the IRGC. So Iran will always try to lash out at these soft targets. So that is something to watch out. Then it could intercept shipping in the Persian Gulf, which is a time-tested tactic since the 1980-88 Iran-Iraq war. But the US fleet is already there in the Mediterranean, which did afford a modicum of confidence for Israel to go ahead with what happened to Nasrallah. And please remember, Deepak, what happened to Nasrallah was thanks to spectacular intelligence inputs.
Well, Mr. Wagmar, this is Madhav here, but I want to bring in Adam Scott Bilos on the latest update coming in. And this is the latest update coming in from Press TV of Iran. Now, they are saying that Israel's gas platforms in the Mediterranean Sea have reportedly been destroyed. That's a big one, a big development there, Adam Scott Bilos, if that is indeed true.
I have no idea if that's indeed true. Anything coming out of Press TV, I wouldn't necessarily take as fact. I haven't received an update since I've gotten on this interview, so I can't confirm or deny anything. If that were to be the case, that would be very interesting, only for the fact that the treaty that was signed between Israel and Lebanon for the natural gas is something that's considered quite contestable or controversial in Israel, given the fact that Hezbollah had such input on that with the Lebanese government, and the fact that Yair Lapid, who was a caretaker prime minister at the time, who was not elected as prime minister, signed that treaty, and it was considered to be somewhat outside of his purview to make that type of agreement. Obviously, if the natural gas facilities have been destroyed, they can be rebuilt in the future. But obviously, any type of attack like that would have a great impact on our economy and the future of our economy. But I would like to know, specifically, I thought it was very interesting how you were suggesting that the amount of force shown by Iran would be able to overwhelm the Iron Dome and the sling system. But we saw that in May that was not the case. So I'd be very interested to see, once this first barrage is over, where we stand. But it does look like this attack is also being coupled with certain domestic terrorism acts in Israel, just like we heard that happened in Jaffa a few hours earlier.
All right.
Other than that, I can't really comment on whether or not the natural gas facility is still standing.
All right. And there's another update coming in from Press TV. Adam, sorry, I'm interrupting you there. Iran's IRGC, or the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, has warned Israeli regime of more severe Iranian retaliation in case it responds to the attack. That's the latest coming in from the IRNA news agency as well. And they've gone on to say, and I'm quoting, if the Zionist regime reacts to Iran's operation, it will face heavy attacks. We'll have to leave the broadcast there at that moment. Burzin Wagmar, Adam Scott Bilos, Captain Alok Bansal, as well as Dr. Rafael George Buchnik-Chen. I'd like to thank all of you gentlemen for joining us this evening. Slipping into a quick break, and with that, it's a wrap on the Newshour Agenda.